Well, hello, folks. It is
Hey-o.
another great week. It's Hard Talks with a Blonde and a Hippie. I'm your trippy hippie, Alicia, jumping on the mic from good old Utah. Here with your favorite blonde, who's no longer blonde, Sarah. Wow. We're also joined with a special guest today, Allie Holt.
Hello.
Thank you for trekking all the way up to
Yeah.
Ogden.
Yeah, of
That
course.
is a trick.
I know. And we actually, I put a post on Facebook, and I
Yeah.
was like, anyone who's local who is a median or
Medium.
medium, yeah,
Median.
yes, that too.
I don't need a median.
Yeah. Anyone want to be on the show? Because I would love to learn more about it, right?
Totally.
And you were the first one to reach out. And
It's so funny. Right before you added me on Facebook, I was like, I was talking to the universe. I'm like, because I just recently got my ability to do this. And I'm like, so the universe send me something to tell me what I'm doing with this gift. What do I need to do? And then you added me and I'm like,
Girl, I just got the chill.
I'm like, I don't add people. This is weird.
yeah, good thing you're wearing a jacket.
I know, right?
But I was like, I don't add people. This is weird. So I let you sit there. Sorry.
I know, dude.
And then I was like, I'm just going to add her. I don't know why.
You're like, I just thought
that
it
was
was filling.
cool.
Yeah, and then it was like, what, a couple days after I added, you posted it. And I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, and even when we were messaging back and forth, kind of talking about the episode, you were like, I feel something there with you. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait because life's hard, as
God,
we all
yeah.
know. And, that struck me. So
Yeah.
to anyone who's new to the show, we do curse like sailors. I don't want to be responsible for your sweet, innocent children saying fuck or goddamn. So slide in on your own time. If you like what we're putting out, go on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can leave a review and tell us anything.
Anything.
Can you relate? Do you have a special gift as well? I'm not used to this mic. I'm going to be whacking it the whole time.
We're used to these nice arm ones.
I know. Or, just tell me what your favorite ice cream is or how your holidays were. I don't care.
Yeah, because they're like on Saturday.
Yeah.
So this will drop Friday.
Nope. This will drop New Year's.
Oh.
Yep. So this is
gosh.
pre-recorded. Sorry. But it's going to be great. So
It's gonna
buckle
be
in.
awesome.
Yes. So I just drafted up a few questions, basic questions, and, I thought we could just go from there.
Yep. I feel like it's super appropriate to put a trigger warning, though.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I there's a lot of suicide and depression. People need to know.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's good. You're insightful. That's why we have a disclaimer, too, because
See, I'm glad you.
It's
I wouldn't
important.
even have thought about that.
I
Well-
was sitting here driving. I was thinking of everything while I took my hour drive.
You got like time.
I know. I'm like, we got to put a trigger warning because I messed up.
But it's interesting you say that because I've had a lot of suicide in my life as well. So
Yeah. It definitely
Yes.
needs to be there.
if you're sensitive to, anything like that, just cautious moving forward.
It's helpful, though. It's not a
Yes.
sad story.
Okay.
I mean, it gets there, but
It circles back.
it does. It totally does. And it doesn't stay sad, so.
Well, tell us a little bit about you and your experience.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I had a kid when I was 23, and, of course, like, the postpartum depression just hit.
Yes.
And that, before that, I struggled with depression a lot, too. So it's like, it's always been there. But postpartum depression. Do you have kids?
I do.
Yeah,
I
it
have
sucks.
two, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I just struggled all the time. I tried to tell my husband, like, I'm sad. And he's like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, I don't know.
I know.
Typical
like,
male response.
I hate that. Or like, I need Prozac, and they're like, "Oh, that's sad." I'm like, "No, it freaking helps
You're like, I need
my
something.
brain." So yeah, it's not sad. Get out of here.
Not
Yeah.
in therapy, you know. But anyways.
Yeah, no, I did therapy like consistently from then until I was 27. I guess not consistently, very on and off. I hate talking to people.
I mean, let's be honest. It's
It's
therapy.
hard.
It's hard.
It is. And, I never really connected with anybody. So
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'll talk to you for a little bit. Never mind, I don't like you anymore, so I'm going to find somebody else. And then
Yeah.
I would just wait until I got super depressed again to find somebody else.
Me and Sarah were very much that way, especially through high school. We were kind of like, there was like one friend in each group You know, clicker almost is, at least for me, I always felt like a floater.
Yeah.
And it was like, I can relate.
Yeah, totally.
I was the weird kid in the background that they're like,
She's sniffing glue.
yeah. No, she's eating it. Leave me alone.
Well, so before my second, during it all, I had to do fertility treatments through all my kids. Well, all I have to. That's a lot, apparently.
Well, it was a lot.
But so I had to
And
do
it's
fertility.
stressful.
It is, and
It's
well, you know,
hard.
fertility treatments is just
It
pushes you over the edge of your
hard on
depression.
your body.
Yeah, and all the hormones you go through.
Yeah.
It's just
Mentally draining too.
it's a lot. And so you know, the first one was way harder. Then the second one, we got pregnant pretty quick
Yeah.
with the second one, but we still had to go through it. And the postpartum depression was even worse after her. And so I just lied to myself the whole time. I didn't really talk about it. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Didn't do therapy through that. And when my daughter was, so actually this has only been this last year.
Oh, wow.
My mental breakdown happened a year ago, like 3 days ago.
Oh, girl.
So I'm here.
We're here for
Yes.
this.
Yeah,
We're here for
I'm
you.
here. But it's a really funny story. It's a really not funny story, but it is now.
We've been there.
Oh yeah.
It is now. But, you know, like long story short, there was a lot of lying and betraying with my husband. And I was not in the right mindset to have that happen. So I just broke down. And then I found out more
Rightfully
things.
so.
Yeah, of course. And then, honestly, it's super funny because it was all about psilocybin.
Right.
And
yeah.
so,
My best friend.
right. And
Yeah.
so, you know, when I was younger, I was an addict. And so when I got sober, I was like, I'm never touching anything that's mind altering ever again.
Right.
And, you know, my whole family's addicts. My dad's a drunk. Like, I just don't do it. And so in November last year, my husband was like, hey, what do you think about microdosing? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be around it. You can do it, but I don't want to be around it. And so then we just never talked about it again. And then we went to a party, and he snuck off and macrodosed, actually.
It wasn't a micro.
It was a macro. And so I text him after like 30 minutes. I'm like, are you done doing drugs yet?
You're like, you done?
And he texts me back, yeah, let's go. And I'm like, dumbass. That's the only thing I could think of. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's say bye to everybody. He's like, no, let's go. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. And then we get out of the door, and he's like, hold on, I'm going to throw up. And I'm like, are you serious? This is so stupid.
You're
Why
like,
are we
good,
doing this?
Good.
And so we're driving home the whole time. I'm like, so what'd you do? And he was like, nothing. I think that he put something in my drink. And I'm like, I am not fucking stupid.
You're
Come
like,
on.
okay.
Come on. And then
Own it.
finally, he
Right?
just kept saying sorry and sorry and sorry. And so then, like, you know, at first I was like, I don't want to do anything. And then he brings me around it. So I even got a bigger, like, disgust for it. And then, like, a month later, I was looking for a receipt, and I found it in his drawer. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then it was just one thing after another for like a month or so. So then that was like my peak.
Right.
And so I left. I left him with the kids, and I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
And I drove around for a while, and I went and put myself in the hospital parking lot, and I was like, somebody will find me here fast. And so
It's heartbreaking.
it was really hard, but I didn't do it.
I'm so glad.
I'm
so
I
glad.
had suicide attempts when I was younger, and the only thing that kept me here was my girls. Honestly, that's the only reason I didn't do it. And I just was gone for a while, and I came back, and I was like in the worst headspace, and I was like, I need a therapist, and I need a therapist now. The next day, I called 47 therapists.
Wow.
47. And the soonest somebody could get me in was 8 weeks, and I'm like, I'll be fucking dead.
You're like, there's no way.
People need to talk about that more often. You know, when
It's
they
disgusting.
do seek help, it's not like flipping on a light switch. It's
Yeah.
not as easy as everyone makes it out
No,
to be.
not at all.
And finding a therapist that works for you personally, that you just vibe with,
Right.
that's really hard to do too.
They need to have like emergency sessions. You'd be like, no, like I'm on the verge of like literally dying. I need to get in like today.
Well, and they have the suicide hotline, but
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
it doesn't
And they have
help.
Does
crisis
it?
text lines, so you could text somebody on the other end, like an
But
anonymous person.
But I feel like
You have to have a
It's not
connection.
connecting.
Correct. And then, like, there are therapists who will take emergency calls, but those are usually the ones that are
Exactly.
Well, and you also have to have have been with them before.
right.
So that's another thing that's like, okay, well, I've never seen you before, but I need somebody, so do something.
I
Right.
commend you, though, because, like, having to talk with 47 different fucking therapists
Dude, it
and
is-
having to, like, basically summarize what you've been going through for
Right.
all these years. That is such a tremendous thing to do. It's
Oh, yeah.
taxing and it's hard to
purging
unload.
it 47 times.
Yes.
It was just my daughter just kept coming in. What are you doing? And I'm like, I just need help. And she was like, okay. And we'll come back like an hour later. What are you doing? And I'm like, same thing.
Yeah.
I
Can
just
ask
need
how
help.
old your daughter is?
She's
your kids?
6 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're fun. But
Sweet babes.
yeah, and it's so crazy because even some of the therapists I called, I'm like, I literally parked myself in the hospital parking lot to kill myself last night. I need somebody now. And they're like, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what do you want me to do? Like,
Yeah.
so then I was sitting here Googling all of these numbers, calling them left and right. And I sat back and I'm like, okay, maybe I really should just listen to my husband. And so I just started Googling so many things about psilocybin. And I was like, I don't want to do psilocybin. I'm like, okay, let's start Googling ketamine. And then it's like so expensive. Have you guys looked into that? It's ridiculous. And I'm like,
I have
it's
some family
addictive.
members who did a ketamine clinic. So
yeah, that's what I was
together-
looking
yeah.
into. And it's addictive, and that's like the thing that I want to stay away from is addiction. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So then I was like, I just need something like full blown hit me hard right now. So I'm like, okay, let's look at ayahuasca. And I was like, I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to go do an ayahuasca. And he's like, okay, like if that's what you want to do, like I'll do whatever you want to do. Cause I can tell like I really fucked you up. And so he's like, I'll take whatever I have to do. And then I don't know. There's something about purging that I'm just like, I don't want to purge.
Right,
So
right.
take me away. And then he was like, he said something like, my friend does ceremonies. And I'm like, okay, what kind of ceremonies are we talking about? He's like, psilocybin. I'm like, I told you no.
Yeah.
And so then like the next week or so, I just Googled everything you could ever think of about psilocybin and ceremonies with psilocybin and shamans and what shamans are in Utah. We don't have that many. And finally I just messaged his friend and I was like, girl, I need help. And I'm like, I need to come in because if I can't do it, I won't be here. And so I was like, I want to do this alone because you already messed me up, but you're my comfort zone. So like, I need something. So we did it together. We did our first
So
ceremony
I'm glad
together.
you did.
And it
Glad
was
you
the
did.
most, I don't even know what the word is. It was like amazing and so sad.
Yeah.
And, you know, every up and down of the emotion that you could think of. And
Whole spectrum.
oh my gosh, I had my ego death and that's something really hard to see. And the whole time, it's really funny because, you know, I was so close to it. So when I went in, I was like, I went in emotionless so that I didn't have an expectation of what I was trying to get. I just knew that I wanted help. That's all I
Right,
knew.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was my only, like,
Intention.
the only
going
one.
into it. Yeah.
I wanted help and I wanted to be happier. That was the only thing that I wanted to have happen. And so that's when I went in. And it's funny because the whole time I was like turned to my right side. It was so beautiful. And it was like flowers and it was like a pretty amber color. And I would turn to my husband and it was all black. And I'm like, oh, so I hate you? Like,
Oh.
No, I think it's just like the power plant medicine is like profound.
It's crazy.
Because I think it takes everything that you've been, you know, burying and compounding for so long that it's just like you can't like see
can't,
beyond
yeah.
the bullshit, right? It's just like here
it's like
you
there.
go.
Yeah. And well, like, you know, the medicine will do what you need help with. Like, even if you don't know
Yes.
that you need that help, it's going to help that thing. And so I don't even remember what it was, but something like switched and I think maybe it was after my ego death. I don't even remember exactly, but I turned to my husband and he looked, you know what the Teletubbies, this is the only, the only description, the way that the sun looks in the Teletubbies, it's like the prettiest amber color. This whole side of the room was that color. Oh. And I was like, oh my God, I don't hate you. Like, we didn't waste 10 years. Like,
You're like, I still love you.
And and the next morning we just sat there in bed and cried the whole time talking. And I'm like,
isn't it incredible how close it can bring you together with the right people? And like we've said this a lot on the show, it's so important with setting and who you decide to experience that with, because really like you shed this exterior that you've been putting on and you just like turn back to like a childlike state of wonder.
Right.
But also, you know, with that comes the roller coaster. And so like you said, the plant medicine is going to show you things that you didn't even think you needed to learn.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And then I've done just a few ceremonies after that. And we started doing eye gazing. I don't know if you know what that is, but
Tell me about it.
It is amazing. And I highly recommend you to do it if you ever
like it.
Do you do ceremonies? Like if you do psilocybin, do you do ceremonies? Because, you know, I did mushrooms when I was little and that was fun. But this is way different.
Is it administered to you by another person?
No,
like a guide?
So you open up sacred space. I mean, it's a very vulnerable situation. But you open up sacred space. You'll set your intentions. So everybody does it different. You put the bowl of psilocybin and then you pass it around. And some people will weigh out the amounts for you. They'll say small, medium, large. And they'll give you a cup and you take the cup or you take the bowl, pass it around. And you can, if it's passed around, you just take what you feel. And you take it and you just kind of hang out for a little while. When it starts kicking in, you drink some cacao. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
The best. And
I actually was at a cacao ceremony this summer. So
really?
But that's the only ceremony setting that I went to a retreat. So
okay. Yeah. So have you done like the women's dance cacao ceremonies? Because those are amazing. You should do them.
No, it was a guided meditation and breathwork session. So
that's
that
really
was
awesome.
Intense. But
breathwork is crazy.
Yeah.
So then after you drink cacao, you just kind of chill. You play music. Everybody does different things. You do sound medicine, which is also really amazing. And then you will smoke Santa Maria right after and just kind of go through your journey after that. And you can keep going all night if you really wanted to, but I don't know anybody that can go all night.
Sometimes the messages are just too much.
I know. I've been there.
Have you been there where it's like your body is so tired, but your mind won't stop racing?
Oh, yeah.
Like you almost wish you could shut it off in those moments.
But then you're like going through such a good journey. You're like, wait, keep your eyes closed. Go through it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've done it. But so when we left eye or eye gaze, I call it left eye. It's actually called eye gaze. I think left eye sounds cooler. So
I like it.
So you sit in front of somebody and you left eye to left eye because your left eye is the closest to your soul. And so when I started doing that, I learned that I can really read people, and it was scary at first. I did it with my little sister, and I literally watched, you know, like when you have a book and you like flip pages and there's pictures and you watch it, like it plays. It's a playbook.
Yeah.
I watched her entire future through a playbook, and I was like,
oh my gosh.
We stopped, and I'm like, I just watched your whole future. And she's like, you did what?
What did you make of that? That's like, were you overwhelmed? Was it?
I don't know. Okay, so it's really funny. It's not. I don't know why I say it's funny because it's not funny. But
that's me. If I can't, I have to laugh about it.
Right.
Otherwise, I'll cry.
That's me.
Yeah. Yes. So I mean, I cope through humor.
Yes, I do too. But so it was on July 30th, which was my birthday. And my sister and my brother-in-law, they're little gypsies. She's young. They're the best. at the time they were staying in Oregon, and they had came to surprise me for my birthday because they didn't like Oregon anymore. Apparently, it's really depressing. I don't know.
Well,
I never did.
like no
Rainy?
Right?
Not as rainy as Washington.
Right.
That's
Well,
true.
she was in Astoria, so it's pretty much Washington.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. She's just like, there's no light.
Yeah.
There's no
she's
vitamin D here.
She's like, everything's getting moldy. I want to come home. And I'm like, okay.
I can literally
sorry.
smell the fungus in the air.
So they came home and surprised me, and I was like, you guys, we're supposed to be doing a ceremony with my husband at that night. I'm like, you guys come with. And her husband or her spouse was like, no. And she's like, okay, maybe I'll do it. And really not. Long story short, we found out that he was cheating. They've been together for 8 years. We
See,
found
it's
out he
always
was
a
cheating.
disconnection.
Yes.
Oh,
The reason he didn't want to do it was because he didn't want to admit.
He didn't want to purge all
yeah,
that.
and you don't want to reconnect either.
Right, exactly.
Probably on a subliminal level.
I mean, it gets a really bad story, but we'll just go really long story short. A couple weeks later, he took her out so they stay in Moab quite frequently when they're here. So he took her out. He broke up with her. A couple days later, we found out that he was cheating on her with my niece.
Oh, shit.
By marriage. Well, yeah, by marriage. I mean, it doesn't make it any
It's
better.
still weird.
So then
No.
this happened in like August, and him and her got married in October.
Oh, no.
wow.
So
What?
My poor little sister has been.
Through the ringer.
Shit.
I have never met somebody more strong than my little sister. I'm like, how do you have this happen to you and you still are smiling? Like, I would be
Like
laying
what?
in my bed for days.
Like, what do you do?
I couldn't imagine it being a family member.
No, that's just...
My ex-husband had an affair with my best friend, and that was rough. But
Your niece.
you gotta see him on the holidays.
But it's like your niece.
Yeah.
Not...
And it's completely
Yeah.
disconnected the whole family. I mean,
yeah, that's gonna rip one apart.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fucked up.
I'm sure like her family's like, what are you doing?
What is skis?
Like 8 years?
yeah, well, and
Ugh.
he was like a part of the family because he was actually the dad's best friend.
Of course.
So he was
so
a part of
weird
the
how they're
family.
so intertangled, you know?
I know. He was a part of the family for 10
Years.
years. And, at the time when they first met, that she was like 5 or 6.
Wow.
So-
oh.
Yeah, it's not.
That's not idyllic.
No.
That
no.
is-
I pray to God that he hears this podcast and he knows how
let's
shitty
promote
he is.
the shit out
Let's
of it.
do it because
That is
they need to know. They just got disconnected from the whole family recently, actually.
Well,
Good. I
yeah.
mean, what
They
did
just
they
got
expect?
rid off. I don't know. And they think that it's normal. So
No.
See, and oh
I mean,
God, relate to all
if
that.
they went about it a different way, I could get on board with it.
No.
But no, like he cheated on his wife with her niece,
yeah.
his best friend's daughter. I can't. Nope. I read some fucked up books, and now that is
she's
fucked up.
addicted to.
I always say, what type of Jerry Springer are we on? Because I haven't even seen this on Jerry Springer.
That's what we say on this show all the time. We're
So,
a
like,
walking
what?
Jerry Springer episode. So it's like,
That shit's
it's
just-
amazing
It's here.
that we just found each other because you're
Jerry
hitting all
Springer.
the nails on the head right now.
Jeez.
But
So, yes, my sister, we went in and I saw her future. And, what's funny about it is the person that she lived her life with was not him. But I never wanted to tell her that.
is this not Jeremy?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I name dropped you. But is it? It is you. Sorry.
But,
It's you.
Yeah, that would be hard because you're sitting there being like, wait a second, you're not who she's married to right now. So
I'm
you're like,
like,
what is happening?
Is he incredibly narcissistic?
Oh, my God.
Because it's
Him,
those
but
people.
it's actually both of them. The niece is very narcissistic
yeah.
and
See, but that
manipulative.
makes sense.
And
'cause
it's even crazier. They have the same birthday.
Oh my God! Okay, dude. Anyways, I'm not gonna get into that.
That's
We'll
like
talk
that's
off
another.
show.
That's like
That's
another.
another Jerry
whole
Springer
other podcast to go on.
But that's crazy.
Part 2. Come back.
This
Okay.
is yeah.
Yeah, so that's when I actually realized like I can really dive deep into people. And then I met
diving
with
deep now.
I think I need to close my left eye. So over here, we're like,
okay,
hang on
let's
a
do it.
second.
Oh, I covered the wrong eye.
What?
So then after that I did another ceremony with my husband's friend again. And so it was her and her husband and me and my husband. And I went in again and I was like, I don't know how I can read you guys inside out. And I'm like, okay, so this is my gift. I can read people. But then my last ceremony, I was like, okay, so I went to a gallery reading at a salt cave. Do you know what the salt caves are? Because they're amazing. But I went,
go.
Okay. You should. Oh my God.
You
so
thoroughly enjoy it.
It's crazy because it actually happened like the same week my sister and her spouse broke up. And my grandma came through. My grandma's been passed since 2013. 13? Yeah. And she came through, and the first thing that the lady said to well, actually, she was talking for a second, and I was like, wait, I'm sorry. I don't want to, like, interrupt you mid-reading, but please just read to my sister. I don't need it. She needs it. And the lady seriously got teary-eyed and was like, your grandmother's sitting in front of you with her hands on your leg, telling you, do not go back. And at this time, we didn't know the full extent to everything that had happened.
Right.
And so obviously she's telling it for a reason.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, I could kind of hear her.
I knew there was something here that wasn't for me.
Yeah. I was like, I could feel what she was saying.
Wow.
So then I was like, I bought all these books. How do you connect with psychic mediums?
Yeah.
And nothing. Don't read the books. They suck. Don't do it.
But I mean,
you gotta try.
I totally
totally
get it because you're trying to like grasp it, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, is this like a real thing or is it just like a fluke?
Yeah.
And I gotta know.
I'm like,
I would be like, am I going crazy? Like,
right,
at
well,
first,
actually, like, it's so weird because the way that it comes through is literally I just have thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been like, am I thinking these? Or are they coming to my head? Like, I can't tell if I'm thinking these or if they're talking
So
to
you're
me.
just basically just like saying everything out loud. You're like, was that my thought or was that your thought? I don't know.
That's exactly what I do too.
You just
I'm
like jot everything down. You're like, whose thought is whose?
I brought it because you know it's so funny and because I'm so new to this, I often am like, I can't say that. I can't say that.
Sure,
so I'll write it down and then I'll be like, oh, wait a second, look, I wrote it down.
Yeah, you're like, I knew
it was there.
I knew it.
You know when you think in your this is gonna sound
You think
weird.
in your brain,
You think in your brain, yeah. And you kind of hear your own voice,
right?
When you have these thoughts come to you, do you hear it in your own voice or is it?
Yeah, usually, but sometimes I can visually see, certain things. I think I'm still getting really connected with it, so I can't like decipher. I don't know. I always tell people I feel crazy because I don't know why I'm saying, like, I would not normally say this, so I don't know why I'm saying this. And I always say, like, you know how you have to think before you say something to have it come out? Well, I don't think this in my brain before it comes out, so I don't know why it's coming out. And they're like,
it just happens.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how it's coming out.
It was meant to be said.
It
was meant to be said.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So have you ever said something to someone like by accident that you normally like I don't know, like has anything like negative ever come through where you're like, oh hey, like Nana's up there and she's kind of pissed at what you're doing,
You're pissing Nana off.
And now it's coming through me, so I promise
you better change.
You're like, what are you doing?
So kind of I connected with some it's really funny because you messaged me you added me, I think, actually, right after this lady had posted. And she's like, do I have any friends that are psychic that can help me connect with my friend or my spouse? It was her spouse that had passed away. And so I messaged her because we're like acquaintances on Facebook. And so I was like, my first thought was maybe you were friends with her. So I like stalked all your friends. You guys aren't friends.
You never know.
That's crazy.
But so, I don't know, and it's crazy because, I never realized, I thought you always had to be in person to be able to read. And she lives in Arizona. We were just texting and like.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
So when you said something to me in messages, and we can talk about that in a little bit, I was like, oh God. I even texted that to you. I was like, you can sense that through the phone. Shit.
Yeah, it's really funny. I don't know how I do it. Yeah. I always am like, how do I do this? I don't even know how I do this.
That's crazy that the power of psilocybin helped you to unlock that, and you probably have carried this gift through many lives.
Right, absolutely.
Maybe, yeah.
I think that like your soul connection is like definitely, you have a soul contract, and I feel like every soul you get grown into, you have the same powers as the one before. Yeah. And so I think that it's like, it's always been there, you know? And I know that when I was younger, my mom always talked to me about like me talking to weird people. And I'm like, what kind of weird people? She's like, I don't know. They weren't there. So I don't know what weird people.
Like imaginary friends?
I don't even know.
So you had it, but you're just like, I know, Mom, I talk to weird people. Leave me alone.
Well, it's so interesting in young kids because I feel like since they're so much closer to the origin of life, they still have, like my son is,
my daughter, well, it's crazy because, you know, my daughter always talks to my grandma and I'm like, you've never even met her. How are you sitting here talking to her? And she'll tell me some random things like, you know, I've never told her animal's names, but she'll be like, who's Bo? And I'm like, I don't know why. And she's like, Grandma told me that she's with Bo. And I'm like, oh. Well, this was before I realized that I was there with her. And I'm like, oh, that's creepy.
Well, and it kind of is at first because it started when he was really young. And when we moved in here, he wouldn't go into certain rooms or like it was the first week we were here. He was crying in the kitchen. Like I thought he got hurt. And he was just like, there's a lady standing by the sink. And I was like,
nope.
Shit.
Nope, there's not. Let's stage the house right now.
Well, but then it's like, I very much believe in this stuff. So I didn't want to make him feel like, I was like, you know what? If someone is here, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're all fine. We're going to get along great.
We're fine.
But, you know, I mean, things have gone on in this house over the last couple years. Random small things will go missing or whatever. And he has an imaginary friend and he's 5.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so is that going to wear off? Or
I think that it does wear off. And, you know, I think the one thing that I've really tried with my daughter is to, like, encourage it because it does, you know, as they grow older, they disconnect. And that's like what psilocybin is for, is to help you reconnect with that. And it helps reconnect your neural pathways to get to that point. Yeah. And so I'm like, I don't want it to wear off, but I know that it's going to. So whenever she is able to connect with somebody, I'm like, okay, yeah, tell me more. Because I don't want her to think it's weird.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And I kind of the same thing. But it's interesting that you say that she connects with, like, past loved ones. I used to carry around my grandma Lena's picture frame. She died like a month before I was born, and my mom was always like, who is that? I'm like, I don't know, but I love her. You know, and it's just interesting, like, looking back on your own lives. If you're listening to this, have you ever been drawn to or connected to something for some reason you may not understand or even, like, be aware of?
Yeah, I think that's a part of the knowing. You know, everybody is a knower in a sense. And, like, when you have, like, you know, that thing, you just know automatically. You might not know why or what it is, but you just know.
Like an intuitive
your
feeling.
Intuition, yeah, completely. And, you know, that's what they say about the knowers is, like, they have a really strong intuition, and it's not wrong.
So tell everybody a little bit about the knowers, because I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, so I don't really know much about it. So I know that there's, like, the seers, which is able to visually see, like, you know, if you're connected with somebody, you're able to see, like, okay, so this person wore this or looked like this or whatever.
You can describe the person.
Yeah, and the knowers are like, okay, so they tell me, you know, they wear this dress or they wear this ring or whatever. Like, they just know versus being able to see.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I don't know how it works.
That's amazing, though.
Because I feel like it's so funny because she's actually a girl that I did ceremony with recently. And it's crazy because the ceremony, okay, so it was supposed to be my sister and my husband's friend, and it was just a female ceremony, which is amazing. You guys got to do it. And so she's like, hey, do you care if this lady comes with? And I'm like, oh, God, no, I guess not. And we get there and we're talking, and she's like, yeah, I'm a knower. This is like, I'm trying. She also can read babies in the womb. And I was like, wow, that's really crazy. I read dead people, so hi, welcome to the club.
I know, I needed that for my first pregnancy because everyone thought I was literally, everything pointed to me having a boy.
Yeah.
Everything was like, they're like, you're having a boy, like the little, like, rings on your stomach was a boy. Our reading I had was a boy. All, like, the wives' tales, it was a boy, and she came out a girl. Maybe she might be a boy later in life. I don't think so, but I don't know.
It's funny, you know, like sometimes that you have like the absorbed twins too, and I think that really reads on those too, because So I had a miscarriage, and then I had my daughter, and then I had a miscarriage, and then I had my other daughter, but she was a twin, and we had lost the other twin. And so whenever I did the pendulum,
whatever.
Pendulum.
Yeah,
That's the right word. Pendulum. Close.
It sounded good.
The sexes were way off, and I think that it reads literally every single thing. And none
That's
of them
crazy.
Maybe because I literally, because when I got pregnant, I found out I'm having a boy. It is a boy.
Well, yeah, when
I felt like
Shelby
so strong. I'm having a boy. So I wonder if she maybe absorbed her twin, and I'm just like over here
we just don't know about it. That's why
I don't know, because I was like,
Caroline can be so savage.
She does. She gets crazy eyes. She goes
red curly hair.
Ooh,
my daughter's
sorry, but she gets it from my husband. We call him crazy eyes. And the mean gene. They have the mean gene and the crazy eyes. That's and I'm like in the middle of it. I'm like,
but stop being
we
mean
had,
to me.
Shelby on from Bad Witch Club, and I mean, she did a full-blown tarot reading for Sarah, and there were cards jumping out that were even suggesting that she had masculine energy, and so maybe your next one.
I don't know.
Well, it's also, I wonder if, because, you can be masculine. You can be completely feminine.
Have you heard my voice?
Divine masculinity, baby.
I totally get that.
Well, it's so funny because I
wear the pants in my relationship.
Yeah, and you with tarot it can be pointing that out rather than the sex of the baby. But
I mean, I do want another tarot reading. That was pretty cool. I did like that. My mom had a reading.
I have some.
I gotta connect with the one you have, though.
I know. So that's important too. It's good to be gifted a deck of cards, right? Because sometimes when people go out and search for a deck that they think fits you, sometimes they're picking up on the energy that maybe like you need to receive or like need to learn from. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
sorry, I completely took your thought.
Tangent. I know. I don't even know where we were at.
We like tangent here.
About the female.
Yes, the female
ceremony.
Yes. Yeah. So
because you could get people and she was babies, and I was like, I need that.
So her whole intent was to be able to understand her powers, to be able to see. Well, she didn't want to see because she knows she's a knower, and I was the complete opposite. I'm like, here, I can see things, so you give me your knowing, I'll give you my seeing. Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny because we eye gazed, and we could not connect because I just kept trying to give her my powers, and I didn't understand it while we were in ceremony. And finally, when we got out, I was like, okay, like we couldn't connect because she was able to give me the ability to like know what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. But I was trying to give her my gift, and she didn't want to accept it because she can't see, and. So we talked for a little while, and she's really awesome. She's really awesome, but she's a knower, and I'm definitely not a knower. But I think it comes with the seer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Because how do you know without seeing? That's what I just kept telling her. I'm like, how do you not know without seeing it first?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like when you go into any psychedelic trip, especially with someone like you may not know, and if you find that soul grounding connection, you kind of walk away with a new best friend, an entire new perspective. So also having that insight, that's incredible. Like, have you guys stayed in touch?
A little bit, yeah. She does rose ceremonies, which also, do you know about rose ceremonies? So.
No, but tell the people.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't know. She'll have you. I wonder if she would ever come on. She's really closed, but she's really awesome. So roses hold the highest vibrational frequency in the world. And they have a lot to tell. Mm-hmm. So
that's why they're the flower of love.
Well, they're the flower of everything.
That's literally like different colors. That's like you got like love, admiration, friendship.
Well, but if you think about it, somebody dies, somebody has a baby, somebody gets cheated on, somebody...
You get roses.
You get roses, yeah. And it's literally, you get roses for everything.
They see everything.
Rose oil is amazing.
Yeah. It is rose tea as well, especially while you're in a rose ceremony. Yes. But, so, yeah, we dove into roses during the end of our ceremony, and I recommend you do some psilocybin and stare into a rose. It's very cool.
Yeah.
It takes you some weird places, but.
So what is a rose ceremony? Like, do you drink the tea or?
So it's like a guided meditation and sound bath with roses. You bathe, well, not necessarily bathe in the roses. You put the roses on you. So kind of bathe in the roses. And it's,
do that.
Yeah, it's really awesome. But I have, I don't know much about it. She's really dove into the whole.
That'd be really cool. I could get into that.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
I'll have to dive into that.
I couldn't do the drugs, but I could do the rose ceremony.
Sarah's still on the fence, but see, I think there's this natural fear for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it is kind of like leaping into a big pool of unknown.
Absolutely.
And
who knows what shit'll come up for me.
Yeah, well, similar to,
I've been there.
LSD, it comes in waves, right? So you could have these moments of just pure and utter bliss, and then that shadow work that you might need to do, it comes up and it does purge, but it comes out. It's almost like a truth serum.
Yeah. So I was there. I was so scared, and I was talking to my friend the whole way up here. She lives up here. So I was like, how do I get here? I think I turned the wrong way. And she's like, so how are you like there? Because I'm not there. Like, we've done a couple ceremonies together, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. And she's like, why are you doing this podcast? I'm like, I don't know. But I'm like, I think ultimately like what it broke down to is like, I haven't told enough people to like be able to get the, what's the word? Like reassurance or whatever of being able to be here and survive what I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't get people telling me like, good job, patting me on the back. And I'm like, maybe somebody will listen to this podcast and it will also change their life. Because if I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for what I've done a year ago, I would not be here today. And I was telling her like, I've changed so much, and it's never like, I cannot pick out one thing that was bad. Not a single thing. And I mean, obviously, there's been like my husband and I, oh my God, communication. We've always struggled with communication, but really something clicked, and we have never had better communication in our whole relationship. And
it's because it's like you see the person for the first time. Like you really, truly see them. And even the hard parts are gloriously beautiful because you kind of step out of that mindset, like feeling renewed. You know what I mean?
I tell everybody it's like the best. So like if you were to get really, really high and you were so high and you felt so good, that's how self-healing feels. But it's constant. Like I am always like, oh my God, I need to go meditate. I want to be able to heal myself or feel myself grow again because it feels so good. And it's like everybody's like, psilocybin's a drug and psilocybin this. And I'm like, I don't, it's a medicine. And I think that you could go get like a chemically altered medicine as well, and you don't get the same effects. Yeah, you don't. And you know what? I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, why did I not do this before? I'm like, I hated myself after our first kid. Why didn't I fix myself then? Like, time, it's fine. But I was telling her, maybe it'll change one person, and that's all that matters. And maybe one person will decide to do a ceremony, and that's all that matters because it has changed my life, like, more than I could ever imagine. Yeah. Like, it's amazing, yeah.
And the science backs it up. You know what I mean? I totally love that you went out and you did all the research. I absolutely, you guys know, I support plant medicine if it comes from the ground. And if you're, but do your research. If you're fearful, dip the toe in first. And you don't have to do a full dose either.
Right. No, microdosing, like, so it's so crazy. I was like, I told him, like, no microdosing. Like, that's so stupid. You literally don't feel anything. Yeah. You just feel happy. Like,
it's like that little pill of Prozac, but not
but
man-made.
Well, and psychedelics are non-addictive.
Yeah,
so absolutely. That's a big plus, and it's helped so many people in your
so
situation.
Well, in so many settings. I mean, there's
PTSD, alcoholism, depression.
Yep.
You name it. I mean,
like almost all addictions. I was reading a podcast. I was listening to a podcast. And it was about somebody had given somebody a microdose of psilocybin for 3 weeks, and they were a 20-year heroin user. Yeah. They'd been clean for 19 years since then.
Damn.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But when you're ready,
no, it's absolutely, because
if you're not ready, that shit will just be
go in with a little like preparation, with no expectation, kind of like Allie did.
Yeah.
Except, you I feel like you kind of manifested that when you stepped into that first experience. I don't want anything from this except just happiness.
Yeah. Well, and I had no idea what I was expecting. I definitely fell through some holes and watched some clouds talk to me when I was younger. So it's nothing like that. It's so different. And in like a ceremony setting, it's like, it doesn't even like add up to, the fun stuff that you do.
Right.
And I don't ever do it out of sacred space.
Yeah.
So I think that's also,
I think maybe I should try it in a sacred space.
You should.
Because, for me, it's always been done in nature or while I'm camping or in my own house with the people I love.
Well, and that's fun, too. But it's, that's fun. That's the point of it.
Intention.
But that's the point of it, is it's fun versus doing it in sacred space or a ceremony. It's therapeutical. And it's a totally, like, completely opposite.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And, you mentioned ayahuasca earlier, and, I have a family member who went to a couple of ayahuasca retreats, and though there is purging, vomiting induced,
literal,
she still said it was,
well, you can also stop, you can do things leading up to that retreat to not have to purge, but I'm like, do I really want to eat fruits and vegetables for a week? Like, not really. Like
I'll just purge it out.
I'm like, no.
If it needs to come out, it's gonna come out either way. Let's just get it out.
But the way she described that was a life-changing event.
Oh, yeah.
Both times, because I agree with her. Like, the way she described it, we're all living in a world where, I think there's something more, that vibrancy, that love for life, that luster, but it kind of gets, blurred in the mundane and everyday things that we have to do, right? And so I think with enough therapy, and I'm going to do one in that flame's going crazy.
I was going to say, I seen it and it just got like really big.
I know. It's because I've had someone attached to me.
I had to look over there because I was like, I could see it, and then all of a sudden it just got really big, and I was like,
what?
Is anything on fire over there?
Because the last month's been really hard. So when I get really frustrated, or in those moments where I'm reminded of this person and I just start crying or whatever, I light a candle and I kind of just voice my grief and my anger, and
the flame changes
how we communicate.
It is. Totally.
Yeah. So all that being said, I think we could find in that world that we're all actually living in. We just have to put a little focus into it, right?
Well, I think, like, honestly, I feel like I always tell my husband, like, do you know how crazy this world would be if everybody would just do mushrooms?
Dude, I say that all the time.
It would be a pretty great world, actually.
Everybody would be so happy. There would be no violence.
So happy.
Going way back, I think, to episode, 4 and 5, we did an entire 2-part episode, and the quality is garbage. So I love you guys for
recorded on the iPhone.
On the iPhone, but these also cheap, really horrible mics in my kitchen.
They're like foam mics, and we're just like
we've come a long way, but
horrible.
We dove into the world of psychedelics, and I'm just like, the world would know peace and love and compassion if they didn't, we'd know who to ship out to the island, right? Like,
you need to go there to do ayahuasca. You can't do mushrooms here.
Right.
When I trip, I see auras. So
funny. So do I. Yeah.
So and that's why I say setting and people are so important when you do this, because if you're around somebody kind of similar how you saw your husband that first time, the black.
Yeah, but you know, also like in sacred space, you cannot have a bad trip.
Really?
Which is amazing. If that's
what
I
need to go. Well, yeah, but so in non-sacred spaces, it could absolutely alter your trip, right? You pick up on so many other people's energy.
Yep.
And that's why, because I used to rave a lot, so that's why I've never done that in a rave setting, because it's just
I could never.
overwhelming.
You know what? I listen to. I thank God for my little sister, because she has turned me into so many different ways. But she turned me on a band that's called Wardruna. I don't know if you guys have ever heard them.
Mm-mm.
But if we ever did a ceremony together, which we totally should, we listened to Wardruna, and it is like medieval folk. Ooh. It is the most amazing music you'll ever listen to. It's Nordic or Icelandic. It's different languages, but somehow you know.
Yeah.
And they actually just came recently in December, and her and I went, and I was like, dude, we got to do mushrooms. We got to do mushrooms. And I'm like, I sat back and I'm like, maybe I can't do mushrooms in a crowd with that many people, even if there's other people. And so we sit down, and the guy in front of me, dude, he is so high. He is on so many mushrooms, and I'm like, damn it, why didn't I do it?
Yeah.
But we sat behind him. I'm like, hey, can you save a seat? And he's like,
yeah, bro.
I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm sure you were just journeying somewhere. But
yeah,
he was gone.
He was so gone.
People, you know, if they want to experiment, as long as you're responsible in that kind of setting, do it. I kind of value it as a more sacred thing as well. Just because it can be overwhelming.
And it totally, yeah. And you know, even if you did it with a spouse, if you guys are not there together, it could totally change your relationship. Mm-hmm. Which, going back to my sister, that's totally why he didn't want to do it, because they weren't there. Mm-hmm. And I'm very happy that he didn't do it. Would have ruined a lot of things. Yeah. But, you know, in any setting that you're in, the people you have to be around have to be in the same mindset. Mm-hmm. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
You can't have one, you know, crazy person doing it over here and one person really calm, because then you're like, where's the middle? Because you need to shut up so I can sit here. That's my husband all the time. He's like, he'll either walk around the house or just sit down. And I'm like, can you do something? Do you see that? Can you go over here? Yeah. He's like, can you just stop?
You're like, I need to get it all out.
I'm a little restless.
Every single ceremony that I go through, I get this like burst of energy. And I just roll on the floor like a dog. I don't even know why.
Okay, because it feels good.
Well, and it's like, it's so funny. I'll sit up and I'll be like having a journey, and I'll sit back down, and I'm like, wait, I got to go back up here. And then I'll sit back down, and he's like, can you hold still? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
I know a person like that too. And it's like, are you even tripping right now? You're like so stoic. Yeah, man. Like, balls to the wall in here right now. I'm like, I would never know that. Can you show some expression or something?
That would be Chase. He'd just be like, yep.
So I know it's not just me, but I said this on our episode after my retreat, I think in July, I truly believe that each little mushroom has its own energy and its own lesson to teach, right? Mm-hmm. So I dose slowly.
Yeah.
Because I kind of want to see where it's going to lead me. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I also know people who will just mow down on them like a bag of potato chips. Yeah. And I'm like, are you like learning everything? Are the like sacred key answers of our existence like running through your head right now? Probably.
So, you know, the way that I've seen it happen is realistically, you can't get past, no matter how much you eat, it's just going to last longer. Right. You're not going to get any higher, so to say.
Right.
So, like, even if you were to take, you know, like, 1.5 grams or 3 grams, you guys can still be on the same trip level, so to say, as if somebody was to take 6 grams. You know, I think that...
That's a lot.
I took 5 one time. And, you know, it's really funny because... It was actually my first time. The first time I went in.
Fuck yes.
And I was like, you know, let's just full send it. Because I was seriously at the point where I was like, I just need to go so deep in that that's why I was like, let's do ayahuasca. Because I just need to get in there.
Yeah.
And so I'd taken probably like 2.5 at first. And everybody else is dropping in. And I'm like, what is going on? This is so stupid. And she's like, are you not feeling anything? I'm like, no. why is everybody else feeling stuff? And she's like, okay, let's go eat oranges. So I ate like 4 oranges. And then we sit down and she's like, you're still not feeling it? And I'm like, no.
That's crazy.
And so then she gave me more. And then 10 minutes later, she was full on Medusa. And I was like, oh my God, okay, sorry. I shouldn't have ate those last ones. It took a long time.
Vitamin C can heighten your high.
It's a stimulant, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Or accentuate is a better word for it.
Yeah. Same with cacao and Santa Maria, which is marijuana. But I think that I think each individual medicine gives you a different journey, so to say. Yeah. If I've gone in and I have not smoked because I've smoked, like my life randomly on and off, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
And so I just don't smoke. And so the first time I was like, I don't really want to smoke. And then the second time I was like, all right, let's smoke. And it was a world of difference. I'm like, why didn't you tell me just do it? It's really cool.
And I think a lot of people forget that cannabis can have psychotropic attributes, I told that story real quick. You'll laugh at this, right? My dad, he doesn't smoke often. And so one day he's over here and he's like, I would like a hit, please. A hit of that pot, please. I'm like, okay, just be careful.
Just a little bit,
because I got to go. And he takes a hit and he's like, this is some pussy weed. And I'm like, you did not just say that.
Wait a second.
Hold on. I get the bong.
Oh, my God.
We just have this relationship, whatever. And I'm like, okay, be careful. But before I can finish what I'm saying, he's already done coughing up along. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you chilling? Because I had to leave in like 30 minutes. So he's sitting on the couch, and I'm like, do you want to hang out here for a while? And he's like, no, I'm good to go. I'm like, are you sure?
And he's sit a little longer.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, okay. So he goes to leave. I come back like 3 hours later, and he's still parked in the parking lot, white knuckling the steering wheel. And he's like, when he saw me, he was like, oh my God,
you're back.
I never thought you were going to come back. I'm like, why didn't you call me? He's like, well, I tried to, but technology got really hard.
Oh.
And it does. But he's like, I overdosed on weed, and like, you can't it's
You're
impossible.
Like,
you
can't
didn't do that, Dad.
You just really high.
That's just your paranoia kicking in.
You can't overdose on cannabis, mushrooms, LSD, or...
It just feels like it. It's just your paranoia.
You just feel like you're dying. Yeah, you're not really dying.
It's because you are literally...
You're in a completely different realm.
Yes.
You don't even know where you are.
No, not at all.
At that point, you just ride that wave like you're Johnny Tsunami, right? But it was just so funny because he still doesn't believe me to this day. He's like, I will never do that again. I'm like, all right.
You took too much. It's fine.
No.
Come on, Dad.
Can I ask you, as someone with this new... found gifts, like how can one better develop it? Just through research, or how does one hone that in?
So,
or strengthen it?
Honestly, if it's somebody that is not open to psilocybin, I have no idea. Sorry, I'm no help. Because honestly, if it wasn't for psilocybin, I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at. Because, I thought I always questioned if I had the gift. I'd go to like a store and somebody would walk past me. I'm like, oh my God, weird. Like, I feel weird.
Yeah.
And I've always been like, what is that? And now that I like understand it, that's when somebody comes into me and I would always be like, okay, get out, like, leave me. Yeah. And
do you have to tell them to leave? Do they linger sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah. So I don't know, actually. Most of the time, anytime I've done a reading, they'll just be like, okay, I'm leaving now. And I'm like, okay, bye. So I've never really like had to tell somebody to leave, but I did actually have a reading with somebody that just did not want to shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
they had a lot to say.
Mm-hmm. They had like, so much. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, dude. I don't want to read anymore. This is a lot of energy. And it's so crazy that the story, I'll tell you guys really quick. So it was actually that girl with a spouse that had died. And, I guess he had like heart failure, I think is what it was. And he was in the hospital when he passed, and she was not there.
Oh.
And And I asked her, I'm like, was he really cold? Okay, keep in mind, I was under a heated blanket. Okay. I'm like, was he really cold when he died? And she's like, no, he was in the hospital. And I'm like, no, there's no fucking way, because I am literally shivering inside out. And then she screenshotted me a message between his mom and him, or his mom and her. And she was like, he was so cold to the touch when he had passed. And I was like, okay, like, that's why I was so cold. But that's when I was like, okay, we got to stop talking, because I am so cold. I have to get up and do something. You are making me way too cold, and it's uncomfortable. And so that's the only time I've really
I'm so glad that you're able to, like, help people, though, because imagine how much closure that brought her.
I know, and
and knowing he had so much to say.
Oh, he's like, well, you weren't there. I have
I'm
a
not
lot to say, Barbara.
With you, babe.
Like, Barbara, I'm not done.
God, no, that's exactly how it was. He was like, he told me that he had sent the spouse that she's with right now. He had sent him, and he's a clone of him. And so, the first question I asked him was, "Does he remind you a lot of him?" And she was like, "He is identical to him." And I'm like, "That's because it's him."
Wow. He sent him. Wrapped, sealed, and delivered to your front door by your recent husband. He's like, take him.
Take him.
He's me. It's fine.
I no longer want him here. It's yours.
Oh.
But yeah, no, I think it's really awesome, and that's like one thing that I was asking the universe, like, what am I supposed to do with these powers? Like, I'm way too shy to walk into a grocery store and be like, hey, your dead grandma's talking to me.
Right.
I could never do that. So I was like, what am I supposed to do with these? And that's when you added me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do.
Well, and I truly believe nothing happens by accident, right?
Right. Well, and I think that the universe just gives you what you need. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that I was asking the universe, like, what am I supposed to do? It was completely giving me what I needed. Yeah. Like
hi, the reassurance.
You're the universe.
Well, she's been dragging me through the mud lately, so I'm just trying to...
You're putting.
Yeah, like, open myself up to what I'm supposed to be learning, and also, like, I know a lot of people who have been to sacred spaces as well, where...
I just drink and like it's
like Gleek.
Oh, I love that. But they like there's people who like guide you through it, and then people kind of like a therapist or a counselor. So you can go to them for like a weekly session, and they help teach you how to take those lessons from your trip and how to administer them in everyday life, right? Because you learn so much from it. I feel like that's my downfall. And I think the next step for me is probably going to a ceremony, because I feel like I lose it.
Well, you have so much to process when you get done. And so after ceremony, we go to bed because 4:00 is the sun's coming up and you need a couple hours. Yeah. And so after ceremony, everybody does it different. We always have sleepovers, which are the best. And then the next morning, when you do integration. So you just literally talk about everything. And
that's so awesome.
It's super, like, so as somebody that's done psilocybin, you go through and you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't remember. And so then, like, somebody else will be talking to me like, oh, I remember that. Yeah. Like, I had that happen too. And so it just gets brought up. And then those things that get brought up, you're able to process through. And if you're sitting here, like, my friend, I was telling her, I'm like, you don't talk when we do integration. And she's like, well, I don't know how. And I'm like, you just talk.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just need to open up that, that switch, I guess. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, well, I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, well, you just talk. If you experience something similar, you need to talk about it too, because you can't process that on your own. Like, you need somebody to talk to you about it so you can get help processing it. Obviously there is things that you can process on your own, but I've like 4 journeys ago, I'm like still trying to process something that I can't process on my own, and nobody else can help me process it either. And I'm like, okay, well, I just got to go back in because I don't know. Yeah. I still can't figure it out. So
I think that's so rad.
I think the integration really, really helps being able to process everything, because
it's just a lot. It's just so much. I learned that I can't write because I was trying to journal. No. It was like chicken scratch. And then like, I was like, and like I was thinking so many things so quickly that
you can't
by
write
the time,
fast enough.
Right, it would leave me. I'd forget. I was like, what was I so shaken over just now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I had to write part of it down.
Yeah. But you can't read it.
No.
Well, and it's like your brain doesn't function the right way either because, one time, that's actually when I was like getting up and getting down one of these times. But I would get up and tell my sister, dude, and then I'd go back into a journey. Then like 5 minutes, dude, lady, and I'd go back in. And we
do that all the time.
Then the next morning, we were just sitting there dying. And I'm like, I have no idea what I was trying to tell you, but I would like try to tell you it. And then I would just get sucked back into something different. And I'd forget what I was trying to tell you. So then I would have another one and I'd be like trying to tell you and then I'd get sucked back in and I'm like, I don't know why this is happening.
Oh God, I feel that so hard.
It's so funny though.
But it's amazing when you can connect with someone and you be like, they're like on the same frequency as you.
Oh yeah.
That is a trip.
It's like it's like you're almost reading, like you're in the journey with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
because a lot of it is so interpersonal and like so in your head, I feel like. Because you're processing so much that when someone else is like, you feel that? You're like, yeah, you feel that? Dude.
I do.
But it's like that.
It is
amazing.
My husband and I went through like, I don't even know we went through some journey. I don't know. But it was really deep. And it's like, it's crazy because like the next morning I was like, wow, that was really, I don't know what we did, but that was really amazing. And my friend was in there with us and she was like, I went through that with you guys. And it was the most beautiful thing ever. I have never watched somebody's love for each other like be out in the open and I like could see the love and I was like, well, I could feel it. I don't know what we were doing, but it was there. Oh, I think we were left eyeing and I don't even know what we were seeing, but
you saw
it was
some great stuff.
Yeah. And she was the third wheel, but she was in on it too.
She's all like, she just watching.
So
She's
cool.
like, I love this
because she probably needed it for a different reason.
She did, and she doesn't have a spouse. I mean, bless her little heart, she's a mess. But
you can third eye her and be like, I can see it in the future. It'll happen. Just take your time.
Well, and after that, she was like, she had a journey with her ex, which is a really big trigger for her. And after she hasn't had a boyfriend or anything for like 4 years. And so she's been talking to somebody for 2 months now. And it's been like a month after our little journey. So she's going, yeah.
Get it.
I'm like, I'm glad I gave you my love.
What she could what she could potentially have. But a lot of that comes like from doing the work on yourself first. Yeah. So it sounds like she was doing that. I think that's great.
Yeah, I tell her that she needs to do more work because she's like, I don't know why I'm not better. I'm like, you like it never stops.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, I know a lot of our listeners are obviously are into the same stuff we are because they listen to us talk every week. But it's a fleeting thought. It's going. No.
Something about I don't know. Ceremonies.
Oh, shadow work is hard fucking work to do.
Yes, I'm like,
it's so hard to do. And so, like, give yourself some patience and be gentle, It
never stops, though,
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right. Well, I mean,
it was destroyed in one.
Hey.
Pretty damn near. Yeah.
I mean, you definitely could destroy somebody in a day, but building yourself never stops.
God,
really.
Sarah.
I know. That took a turn. I've been deep. You guys, I've been ornery lately. I've been so ornery lately. Like,
maybe
don't
you
even
need a reading.
I probably do, but I've just been poor Chase.
Kind of in a funk.
Like, everybody just pisses me off, and I'm just like, ew.
But I feel like that kind of comes with the
away
season too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on in this little brain of mine. It's fine.
Whether you believe it or not, seasonal depression is.
I think it hit me hard this year because we're getting that like Arctic. Did you see Arctic? Whatever. Did you see like Siberia was negative 59 degrees?
I didn't even know you could get that cold.
Fahrenheit. 59 degrees Fahrenheit in Siberia.
Alaska Anchorage's hit record-breaking snowfall.
Because we're getting North Pole. We're getting the North Pole weather.
Hey,
like Florida, like Georgia, Arizona, everybody's getting
for
it.
Us. This is good.
Yeah,
it is cold.
Out by me was like 5 degrees this morning, and I'm like, I'm not going outside.
I grew up in Minnesota, so it was like -8 on the reg.
I don't know.
Never ever will I live there again. And then I lived in Arizona, totally.
Oh my God.
Totally opposite. Never live there again either because I can't handle that kind of heat. Anyways, sidetracked. Well, beautiful humans, I think we will end it there. Allie is going to do a little bit of a reading. So if you want to tune in for part 2, you absolutely can. It will be the next published episode of Hard Talks. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this episode, if you could relate to it, if you want to learn more about the power of plant medicine, absolutely shoot us an email at hardtalkswithbnh@gmail.com. You can also give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook at hardtalkswithbnh. We are on Twitter at hardtalkswithb1. And it would make our day, week, month if you helped us in another way. If you want to hop onto Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, you can leave a written review. Tell us whatever. We love it. We want to hear from you. It helps us continue to grow. And then you can also leave that 5-star rating there as well. That would be huge, and we would so appreciate it. But until next week, you guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay chipper, and don't let the bullshit get you down. Till next time, bye.